Hello again, everyone. Hope you liked my voice in the last one because you're kind of stuck with it now. Though hopefully this audio quality is better. I have my mic actually hooked up this time rather than my shitty earbuds. Uh, so yeah, I hope this suits your fancy more. I hope my voice isn't too grating on your ears, the usual shit. It's nice to have you back if you're a returning viewer and liked my first episode. I appreciate you coming here. If you're new, hey, my name's Kat, nice to meet you, and glad to have you. For those interested before the story starts, the speed paint in the background is of my profile picture. Today, we will be reading a story by user Pretend Wizard Seamus, titled Creepy, Gross, Sexist, Dumb, This Guy Had It All. There is a link to the story in the description if you would like to read along with me. And content warnings go as follows: drug use, alcoholism, and pedophilia. So if any of these are topics that you can't handle, please click off this video. I will probably have something more suited to you at some other point. And I hope to see you again. This is about an ex-friend of mine I'll call D, whom I've played D&D and Pathfinder with in many games for many years. We've been friends going back to freshman year in high school, and he's always been a kind of a creeper. In some ways, was a good friend, like he'd give you money even if he was broke, but also a bad friend in a myriad of ways. But ultimately, he was my partner in tabletop, as it was easier to join groups with a friend, or have him help me encourage other friends into starting groups. A lot of this happened before the Me Too era, and while I knew things he would do and say were creepy at times, it's with a more educated hindsight that I realized just how gross and intolerable it should have been. If you think I'm virtue signaling or something, just stay tuned. First off, Dee would always play female PCs, and a lot of times, young girls. He had a fetish for really young but capable, badass girls, your Harlequin types. Not only that, he'd play up the sexuality. It, should have been a red flag. One particular game I DM'd, he played a 17-year-old female rogue, which we had an argument about because I suspected he fudged her stats. But the real issue was he wanted to play her as a slutty prostitute and seduce Marks. It made it very awkward. I wasn't about to flavor text him blowing some NPC for money. I laid down a hard rule. No sexual shit. Especially since we were playing with two newbies who were getting weirded out, but he still persisted with flirting with my NPCs. Other examples include him undressing and flashing a guard for a distraction, and also flirting with other male PCs. There was this one ugly game with his ex-girlfriend, whom wasn't all that into tabletop to begin with. He made in-game sexual advances so often to the point where the PCs never got out of the tavern. I ended that game quickly. The frustrating thing was Dee would act like he was all about female empowerment. It's a male's fantasy of female empowerment, though. A good example is that movie Sucker Punch. He loved that movie, and based the central sexy NPC in a game he DM'd on the MC of that movie. His NPC was super badass, much stronger than our PCs, had her own crime organization at 15. Yes, 15. It was the one time he DM'd, and it was just a dumb male fantasy. His badass 15-year-old crime lord in sexy lingerie hired our PCs. I remember she led us to a huge room in her HQ that was filled with piles of gold. That was our prepayment. Infinite gold. It was to buy anything. Do anything you want. I guess could be fun, but it just wasn't what we were looking for in a game. And then there's the alcoholism. He was a functioning alcoholic and a chain smoker. Another time, we were doing the whole first session character maker rules explanation with another group of newbies that were friends of mine. Over the course of the night, Dee got so drunk he was drooling on himself. You couldn't speak to him. He was beyond wasted. That group never started the game. I know alcoholism is an illness, it's a real issue. I don't want to get into that aspect of Dee much more. I'll just say it's something I really tried to help him deal with, and there's obviously a lot more to it. There's a lot more, especially with his sexism, but this is already getting too long. I'll wrap it up. How did this all end? Well, if you didn't see this coming, I should've. Dee started seeing an underage girl, a 16-year-old. We were in our 30s. It was incredibly weird, and incredibly wrong. Dee didn't see any problem with it, as it was with the consent of the girl's mother, and she was a very mature person. With my limited time around this girl, I can tell you she talked and acted like a 16-year-old. On top of this, he'd still drink as much as he did and smoked around her. I met her mother once. They were definitely living in poor conditions. She wasn't all there. Possible drug use. I don't know. I didn't want anything to do with it. I sat Dee down and had a long talk. I told him that I cannot be around his situation. It's hard to call your long-term friend what he was, a pedophile. I actually didn't. I definitely thought it, but I couldn't get that term out. I tried to take a snap-back-to-reality approach. He would snap back and tell me that I'm the one making things weird. I should get over it. I told him I can no longer speak nor see him. It's over. I believe that was 5 years ago. Holy cow, I'm sorry, that last whole paragraph had nothing to do with tabletop gaming, but it was cathartic to write it out. If you read this, thanks for reading. Too long, didn't read. I dealt with an old friend's frequent creepy sexism and bouts of alcoholism for far too long amidst many, many tabletop games. It, doesn't end well. Wow, just... wow. That's a lot of red flags. But regardless of the amount of red flags, I can see how hard it would be, for someone to just drop a longtime friend just like that. Regardless of what they did. You see it time and time again, just... I can't let go of this friend, I've known them for so long, and we've been friends for X amount of years. But sometimes it's for the best, especially if there's someone like this, someone who takes advantage of a child and their mentally not all their mom. Anyways, I hope this guy stops whatever the fuck he's doing, and gets arrested, because he shouldn't be allowed in society. I hope OP is doing well. I hope that this really hasn't turned them off of role-playing games or anything like that, because I'm pretty sure that would affect a few people. There wasn't much in the way that OP could do to stop most of this, aside from, you know, cutting the friend off sooner. But such is life. Anyways, since that's over, thank you so much for listening to today's story. I'm very happy you stuck around. Please do all that great YouTube stuff, you know, like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me out, and if you'd like me to keep going with this, then it also lets me know that this is the kind of stuff you like to see. If you can't think of a comment to leave, then just tell me your favorite PC you've ever played. I want full info dumps. Doesn't matter if it's your edgelord or Mary Sue that you made when you were 14. If you had fun playing it, please tell me. Mine is probably my current characters, Silas and Elizabeth, just by virtue of having had them the longest. Sorry, I can't fucking speak. Anyways, that brings us to the ending of the video. And Please have a very nice day.